Hello and welcome to Senior Speak New Hampshire on your Concord TV Channel 22, sponsored by AARP. I am Karen Ulmer-Dorsch, the producer host of this program, and I thank you for being with us today. You know, for many of our residents, September is the month that the French call la rentrée, which translated means back to school for all of those who are in any type of formal education. But here in New Hampshire, September also has a very important date for us, which is September the 13th, our midterm primary, in which we go to the polls and we select the individuals who are going to represent our wishes for the midterm 2022 elections. And so it seemed very appropriate that I have my good friend, Jennifer Delaney, who is our AARP New Hampshire Associate Director of Advocacy, to be my guest today. Now, I've wanted Jen for my guest ever since Doug McNutt, our former Associate Director for Advocacy, retired in early this spring. But she's a very busy lady, and I wanted to give her a chance to settle in. And it seemed absolutely perfect to have her come on today to talk to us about issues that are crucial to the 50-plus population that we have. So, Jennifer, thank you so much for being my guest today. And let's start out with giving our viewers a little bit of information about you, because I know that they are going to see an awfully lot of you in the years to come, and I want them to get to know you.
Oh, thanks so much, Karen. Firstly, I am so absolutely thrilled to be here. I've watched Senior Speaks so many times, and it is such a wonderful program. The service, that it's such a great service for people to learn about important issues, health, advocacy. So kudos to you for having such a wonderful show. And a bonus, I get to spend time with you, which is really wonderful.
That's always fun, isn't it?
So thank you for having me on. I grew up in between Lexington, Massachusetts and Ossipee, New Hampshire.
Wow.
Yep, and so I've always considered Ossipee home. And then I went to college at the University of Massachusetts. And after that, I took a wild turn and I went to Tokyo. And I lived in Tokyo for 8 years. And
wow.
And I worked in the music business, negotiating deals to bring over Madonna and Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston and Paul McCartney to play.
How fun.
Yeah, it was an absolute blast. It was a really, really wonderful time. So I enjoyed that so much.
So how did you get with AARP?
Well, what was really neat was, I ended up living and working in Washington, D.C. I went to Georgetown and did a degree in public policy, a graduate degree. And I became the executive director of an children's advocacy organization in Washington, D.C. So we led advocacy efforts on orphans and vulnerable children in developing countries. So making sure that U.S. government funding was additionally allocated for children. So for example, in the AIDS, TB, malaria bill, we made sure 10% of that went to kids programs as well. So that kids, and especially kids who had been orphaned by AIDS, TB, malaria, war, so they were served. So while I was, that's a kind of a long explanation, but so while I was doing that, while I was in that position, my dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And he's just such a wonderful man. Wonderful, wonderful guy. And so my husband and I made the decision that we would come back to New England area to be closer to my parents, and then unexpectedly my mom passed away.
Oh,
Yeah,
gosh.
and so, but the silver lining is that I got to spend so much time with my mom and dad in their later
Great.
years.
Wonderful.
And I was the primary caregiver for my dad with Parkinson's disease for years. And so I saw all of the struggles with,
Absolutely.
And so it led me to want to put my advocacy skills to use for folks 50 and older. And here I am. I feel so lucky to be here.
Well, we are thrilled that you are here. Now, I have a little question to ask, because you had such a star-studded career with these stars. How did that flow? That seems so strange.
Sure. So I was visiting a friend in Nairobi who worked for Johns Hopkins. One of my friends from Tokyo worked for USAID in Nairobi. And they asked if I could come on and advise them. I did some pro bono work for them on developing messages for young people through music and entertainment. So that's how I got there, and that's how I got into the advocacy. And when I was the executive director of Global Action for Children, Angelina Jolie became our spokesperson.
Oh,
so
yes.
I've always been in between advocacy and kind of the glitzier side.
Oh, that is absolutely intriguing. We are so fortunate to have you, Jen. This is going to be so grand.
I'm excited to be
It's
here.
going to be so grand. Okay, what can people find, where can they find updated information on how to vote?
Sure. Well, of course, one of the best spots to find that is on aarp.org/New Hampshire votes. And I believe they have put it up on the scroll so people can see it easily.
Super.
So there's an incredible amount of information on where to vote, how to vote, when to vote. But one of the neatest things is that you can actually sign up for alerts. So you can input your email address and they will send you updates to remind you that, the primary is coming up on the 13th, or today's the last day to register for absentee ballots. Additionally, the other really neat thing is that you can, if you can't quite remember if you're registered to vote, you can check and see if you're registered to vote. And you can also sign up to vote there too. So it's really a one-stop shop for anybody.
Great. That's great. Tell us again.
So it's aarp.org/NHVOTES.
Okay, people, you got it. Now you get out there and you exercise your power. Okay?
Yeah. And I have a couple of more spots that might be helpful too.
Good.
So the Secretary of State's website is always the gold standard as well with information on how to vote, because they're the decision makers. So all of the most up-to-date information is also on the Secretary of State's website. Additionally, they have a phone number, an elections phone number that you can call, which is 1-603-271, I have to look with my glasses, 3242. Again, 603-271-3242. And then you can always call your town clerk too, because in whatever town you live in, your town clerk is, is the point of contact for all things elections.
Right. Okay, so where can we find information about the candidates? The same?
Sure. Let's see. So I would recommend finding information about the candidates. Well, first, of course, AARP has many things going on to help voters 50 plus learn about the candidates. So as you know, the races in New Hampshire this cycle, there's a big race, the federal level,
Yeah.
we have the one race for senator. So we have sitting Senator Maggie Hassan, who is a Democrat, and her challengers at this point, the ones who are above 15%, are Don Bolduc, who is a Republican, and also we have Chuck Morse, who is a Republican. He was the president of the Senate, the New Hampshire Senate. So that would be for the senator's race. Senator Shaheen is not up this cycle. We also have the governor's race, and it's sitting Governor Sununu, who's a Republican, versus Tom Sherman, who is a Democrat, and he was also a senator, a New Hampshire state senator. And then in the congressional races, we have, in Congressional District 1, we have sitting Congressman Chris Pappas, who is a Democrat, and he has many, many challengers. There hasn't been one, the polling is starting to come out, and there isn't one specific person that has emerged. Looking at the polling, there are two folks who are above, I think, 20%. And then additionally in CD1, CD2, sorry about that, we have Congresswoman Annie Custer, and she has several challengers, and the seat looks wide open in the Republican primary for that seat.
Okay.
So,
okay.
We have a lot going on in New Hampshire.
Well, we do. Always, we always do.
You are right.
Okay. And what are some of our important issues that we're interested in?
Well, it's funny. I feel funny even answering these questions for you, Karen, because I know you know the answers to this because you're such a wonderful advocate on many, many of them. As you know, one of the big issues that AARP is a very strong advocate on is fair drug prices. That's something that we know is so important to people 50 plus. So many people are on fixed income, so when those drug prices, go up, it really could mean the difference between, heating your home, eating, and treating.
Absolutely.
And I mean, you've heard the stories and you have testified before the New Hampshire, New Hampshire's members of Senate and House. So those issues. And again, and transparency on drug issues as well. Also strengthening Social Security, ensuring protections for those most in need. I mean, we really, that is such an important issue for all folks. And also strong long-term care, As you know, people a lot of people want to age where they live. So ensuring that people, who choose to age in place can do that, but also ensuring that if they want to, we want to strengthen, nursing home capacity too for folks who need to be there.
Exactly.
So really buttressing that long-term care system, and also making sure that people have strong economic health, especially with, we have a lot of inflation right now.
Exactly.
A tight housing market. So making sure that, people are able to afford, the food they need and medicine they need. That's one of the things that AARP advocates for most. So, and of course, strengthening Medicare.
Right. Okay. And I hear AARP recently had a victory in Washington, D.C. Tell us about that.
Wow. Karen, I mean, first of all, it is really due to advocates like you. I mean, I remember, earlier this year, and I'm sure before my time, you and so many of the folks on the Capital City Task Force sending emails, writing letters to the editor to support the ability for Medicare to be able to negotiate prescription drug prices.
Yes.
So that was a fantastic victory. The bill was signed the bill was signed into law yesterday.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Which was fantastic. I think there's probably going to be a larger signing and a ceremony coming up.
Okay.
But, you know, AARP was really pulling out all the stops, you know, on Capitol Hill, buttressing the support for the senators who were voting for this, and then also working with members of Congress. And then, you know, all of the AARP members and advocates were really emailing and calling their members to make sure that they were going to vote in favor of something that's so important.
And you know, viewers, it truly is extremely important. I am someone who never thought I would ever be doing what I'm doing right now in my 8th decade of life, which is advocating for things that are important to my age group. And please take note of where the various candidates stand on these issues and make your voice heard, either with letters to the editor or join us as we go out and ask people what their views are. Okay, so you're right, Jen. It is extremely important that our volunteers be active in not just going to the polls, but speaking out for things they need.
Absolutely.
The stories are everything. The stories are everything.
Well, and I mean, one of my favorite things is to, you know, see the op-eds and the letters to the editors when the Capital City Task Force members, when you guys publish that, it just makes my heart go pitter-patter. And then also to see you testify in front of committees. It really, as we know, it is so powerful. Exactly what you said, Karen. It's all about the stories. It is.
It is.
It's all about, you know, hearing the everyday challenges that people have where they can't, you know, I recently heard a story where, you know, I think it was Bev Cotton, who is a really strong advocate, a story where somebody was rationing their blood pressure medication because they didn't want to tell their kids that they were struggling to afford it.
Exactly.
And she ended up having a stroke, which was just so tragic.
Yep.
And those
that
things
hits home. That hits home with the people who represent us.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And those things just shouldn't happen.
No, they should not.
And that's why you and AARP are fighting for those issues that matter to folks 50 plus.
Exactly. So how can people get involved?
So I'm so glad you asked that. Well, one of the things that we're planning for the fall is an advocacy boot camp. So you're away, so we haven't pulled you in quite yet, but you're going to be involved in this. We will be planning an advocacy boot camp probably sometime in November. We will be sending out an announcement in September. There will be an application process for folks. It's very similar to the senior leadership program in the application process. And then we'll be doing probably a day or a day and a half of all of the things that you need to demystify the legislative process. Because I know that sometimes it can be intimidating. So we'll have an overview of what the legislative process is. We'll have folks meet with representatives and New Hampshire senators and New Hampshire representatives.
Great.
We hopefully will do a letter to the editor, an op-ed training, and probably we'll have our colleague and friend Pam Doobie come in and do a social media training. So we have, we're still sorting out the agenda. and as soon as we get it sorted out, we're gonna, invite people to come and apply.
Okay,
So.
look for it, people. Look for it. So what advice do you have for this election cycle or anything to watch out for?
Sure. I mean, one of the things that I would just watch out for is sometimes stories come out fast and just they're not always accurate. So I would just make sure to kind of take your time and do due diligence on the candidates and their positions. I would make sure you go to some trusted sources for news, and then also to the direct, to the candidates' websites to see.
Right.
And then also AARP will be interviewing some of the candidates and for the AARP bulletin. So there'll be information there. The additional piece is that AARP is going to be doing the video voter guides. So we will have them answering questions on things, that are important to folks 50 plus. So you'll get answers to those questions and you can just sit back and eat popcorn and watch those.
That's great.
The other one thing I would say is that just make sure, you get a lot of calls during election time. So I would just make sure you don't give out any personal information or anything like that, because you never know. Fraud watch is there for a reason. So.
And it is always rampant at this season. Always.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And you mentioned often the AARP website. Anyone can access that. Isn't that correct, Jen?
Absolutely.
You don't have to be a member of AARP.
No, not at all. I mean, you'll be able to go to the website, see the video voter guides, get all of, you can sign up and get emails for all of the updates. You do not have to be an AARP member.
Right.
Not at all.
So there are plenty of opportunities for you viewers to find out really the truth. Not misinformation, but the truth. And you certainly will always get that from AARP website. Okay. Do you have do you have thoughts about things we've missed?
I think we've covered a lot. I think so. I mean, let's see. Well, I mean, I just think, as you said, September 13th, get out there and vote. And if you have any questions at all, please go to the AARP website, aarp.org/New Hampshire votes.
Okay,
yep.
That sounds absolutely great.
Wonderful.
Now, what do you find the best part for working for AARP? Back to you,
Well, that is a tough question because there are many things. I mean, I of course love, making a difference and coming to work every day knowing that I'm making a difference. I have to say, and my wonderful, wonderful colleagues, but I have to say the number one thing is working with I call them my volunteer colleagues because I feel like you're my friends and colleagues. That's the number one thing.
I've always said that being a volunteer for AARP is one of the highlights of my life because the people who are hired and the volunteers make one team. We are all a team, and everybody's voice is equal. And Jen, I can't thank you enough
Karen,
for having come with me today. So
thank you so much for having me on. I can't thank you enough.
Okay. Until the next time, everyone, be good, do good, be one.